So today I feel a lot better prepared than I did on Monday. Hopefully, I have all the right links and we can actually do some work in breakout rooms, which was the plan for Monday, and it didn't work out so good. I want to focus on a couple of things that Teresa Tony talked about. One is academic writers use evidence. And the other one is that academic writers use discipline-specific terms. And you might have noticed when you were reading Baron and Grimm that they were using words that you, or phrases that you weren't familiar with. For example, you know what diversity is and you know what productive means, but they use them together and now they have productive diversity. Or a phrase like color blindness, and you think you know what it is, but they're using it in a really specific way. And in an academic text like Baron and Grimm's, they're going to use those words. And if you don't know what they mean, then that's going to make it difficult for you to understand. In fact, that's one of the harder things about reading these types of texts is that they're using so many words and phrases that you might think you know what they mean, but you're not quite sure. So a few things before we start. What questions do you have for me about the collaborative glossary?
Can you just like go over like what is expected of us for it?
Yes, Sammy, I can. A glossary is a collection of definitions. And you are going to be doing some reading about diversity in literacy classrooms. And you're going to come across words and phrases. For example, in Baron and Grimm, you're going to come across words and phrases that you're not quite sure what they mean, or you think you know what they mean, but the way Baron and Grimm are using them, you think that this is going to be really important for um, understanding this topic. Because in order to do research, you have to understand where the conversations are going, because all academic writing responds to what others have written. It, in essence, it joins a conversation about this topic. So it's joining a conversation. You are going to be joining a conversation about diversity in literacy classrooms and in the Writing Center. So understanding what others are saying is going to be important because you're adding to that. So you're going to be going through Baron and Grimm and identifying words and phrases. And then you're going to be looking for definitions. But you're not going to find definitions like random online definitions. You're going to be finding definitions that are taken from more authoritative sources, from academic literature, from organizations that do this kind of work. In fact, let me um, let me go ahead and do this exercise in breakout rooms first. So a word that they're using is literacy. They also use multiliteracy, which I introduced to you earlier this semester. So what definitions of literacy do you have? Go ahead and write them down in the chat. It makes a difference. What is literacy? Go ahead and write it down. Knowledge in a particular area, yes. Knowledge of reading and writing skills. The ability to communicate specific topics and understand them, definitely. Bringing knowledge into different areas, ability to read and write. Good, good. And so we know kind of what it means. And if we go to a dictionary, just like the random online dictionaries that we use so often, we see those definitions. So Oxford Languages says the ability to read and write. Yourdictionary.com, that sounds really authoritative, says it's the ability to read and write and having knowledge about a specific subject. Merriam-Webster really obscures this, the quality or state of being literate. And these definitions are okay, but if you're writing a scholarly paper, you want something that's, you might want something more specific about the way you want to use literacy and the way that you want your audience to understand it. And so you might define it using an authority. This is UNESCO, United Nations, something. I can't remember what. And they actually define it because they study literacy in children. And they say literacy is the ability to identify, understand, interpret, create, communicate, and compute using printed and written materials associated with varying contexts. Literacy involves a continuum of learning and enabling individuals to achieve their goals, develop their knowledge and potential, and to participate fully in their community and wider society. This is the type of definition that you might find in a scholarly paper. How is this different than these definitions? And why, how is it different? And why might this actually be preferable in an academic setting? Go ahead and stop you can put something in the chat or you can unmute yourself and note what you're thinking. Emma noted that it's more specific. Yeah, it eliminates obscurity, it clarifies. What else makes this different? So let me talk about it a little bit. It expands. That specificity expands the meaning. And in expanding it, it also limits it. So it isn't the ability to read and write or specified knowledge in any subject area. It is the ability to identify, understand, interpret, create, communicate, and compute using printed and written materials associated with varying contexts. So it labels it. And now when a scholar talks about literacy, there is absolutely no doubt about what it means. And you know that they'll be able to focus their research or their analysis on the things in this definition. These are the type of definitions that I'm going to ask you to look for as you are working on this glossary, so that you can find them from authoritative sources, use them as evidence. By the way, what do I mean by authoritative? Yeah, expert sources. Individuals or organizations that are expert in this field. They are authorities in this field because of their experience, because of their education, maybe a combination of those. That's what makes them authoritative, not just a random person. I mean, you all came up with good definitions for literacy, but you aren't necessarily authoritative. And so finding this very precise definition from a variety of sources has value in that it helps you sound authoritative, like you're knowledgeable because you found it. And it's used as evidence. What type of evidence would this be? If I include this definition in a paper I'm writing, and using Ruggiero's classifications of evidence, what type of evidence is this? Yeah, it's an expert source, expert testimony. It's also a published source from an expert. So, like it's sort of both of those things, which makes it very, very credible. Now, we can ask questions of it. What is the authority of UNESCO? Who came up with this definition? How did they define this? What purpose did they have? And if you were to go to this, you could find all of those things. In fact, this was taken from their glossary. So there you go. But it was taken from some research that they did and some papers they had. So what I'm going to ask you to do right now is I'm going to ask you to go through Barron and Grimm, and I'm going to ask you in groups to identify terms that you think might be added to that definition or to those glossaries. And you're going to put them on the slide deck. So to name them. This is the slide deck I'm giving you, and you have permission to edit. And let me also give you, send you, if you're logged into Canvas, you should be able to access this page. There is a PDF of addressing racial diversity in the Writing Center that you can access, or you can access the one that has all the annotations on it, okay? I'm gonna put you in 3 rooms, so make note of what room you were in. You'll notice the slides are identical, and you'll just type in as many terms and phrases as you think are important. I've already named one, productive diversity. And of course, color blindness, those are important terms. See what other important terms you can come up with. I'm going to stop share, and I'm going to put you in rooms. Okay, there are 3 of you in each room, and questions about what I just said. Sammy, was this good explanation of the glossary?
Yes, thank you.
Good, good. All right.
I have a question real quick.
I'm closing the rooms. I had just opened them up. Yes, question.
Is there anything that's due tomorrow for for the glossary project?
I want you to introduce yourselves to your group.
Okay, sounds good.
Um,
Thank you.
Yesterday, last night, I sent out each of your glossaries, your forms. All of your forms are identical. I include the definition of literacy, although you can find additional definitions of literacy because that is your first term. It's in Barone and Grimm, and then you're going to add them by Saturday, along with definitions or examples from Barone and Grimm. Eventually, you'll be finding other definitions from scholarly dictionaries and encyclopedias, but also from a variety of academic sources. So on the 15th of March, we'll be doing a library instruction. And so that will give you that opportunity to begin finding together, finding those other sources, kind of the same way I found the definition from UNESCO. So that's what to do Thursday and then Saturday. So let me go ahead and open those rooms, and you all will go in there and find as many terms as you can.